So right now we're cutting out all the corner gussets that are gonna go in all of these corners to hold the skid plate on. And I just wanted to show how easy it is to make these little tabs. So I just draw out the basic shape of it, and then I take a protractor and a bevel. See if I could do this one-handed. Stick this in a corner, figure out the angle. Take the protractor, check what angle it is. So this one's 42.5 degrees. Come back over to the computer. I already drew out my basic shape, so all I have to do is edit the sketch. Say I wanted to do one at 90 degrees. Just change this degree to 90. And it does that same gusset. And then say I want to go back to the 42 degree one, I just edit that sketch. Come on, edit the degree to 42.5. Changes it back. And it's already got the fillets on all the corners and everything because we already completed the sketch, and it's ready to cut out again. So when you have the tooling, sometimes you just have to think of how you could use it. I drilled all 8 holes in this AR400 by hand in one of the skid plates and went through all of my bits. Just absolutely doled them out. It took forever to drill through it. So I came up with an idea to drill or at least pierce the rest of the holes. And this is how we did it. So right now we're working on the engine skid braces. We got the engine skid mocked up under there, and I need to do a brace coming from here down to the skid, but it needs to be, the skid needs to be able to be removable. That way you can drop the oil pan if you need to for some reason without like pulling the whole motor out. So I'm gonna do a piece that comes down and bolts in right here. So this structure will be welded. But the only kind of issue here is the upper link comes across at this angle, and then the front drive shaft comes right through. So I can't just go straight down to the corner of this. I kind of have to like bend it at an angle. I was thinking about doing a tube, but this is what I came up with. So I did kind of this like plate structure. It's definitely overkill for just a engine skid brace, but basically the idea is we're gonna come down off of this. That's gonna be welded and then tabbed off the skid, and that'll be plenty of room for the drive shaft to come through there and everything. So with this, it's probably pretty obvious to some people, but maybe not to others. So I wanted to show how this piece is constructed before I get the other one all welded together. So basically I just did plate on this side, plate on this side, and then this is all made out of 1/8 inch. It's basically the same thing as using a 120 wall tube, but plate. So we just kind of tacked it at this side, and then just with a crescent wrench, just kind of bent it and tacked it as we went down to get it to form to this shape. Same thing with the other side. And then this is a 1-inch tube just tacked, and it's going to be fully welded and everything. Looks like this when it's all finished out. Just a solid structure that all the weld seams are ground down. All right, so fast forwarding a little bit, today is now Saturday. We finished out the week, got most of the stuff that I wanted to get done this week done. Got the front axle back in the car, got the front links all welded all the weld washers on all of the control arm brackets. The rear, I didn't do the rear links yet because we ended up being able to use the rear drive shaft out of the old car. This drive shaft ends up being a super short drive shaft, so I wasn't sure if this double cardan yoke was gonna work. Worst case, I was gonna run a single limit strap in the center just to keep it from when it fully droops out from binding or contacting up here. But I checked it all, put these links back on, checked it, full droop, full compression, flex, all that kind of stuff, and everything's good. So what we ended up doing is just pointing the pinion angle up quite a bit at full compression so that when it's at full droop, it's pointed up at the transfer case and none of this contacts. So with all of that being checked out now and verified, I'll pull each of these links off one at a time, weld the 2-inch 250 wall lowers and the 1.5-inch 120 wall uppers, and have the final links put in. So on these links, like I just mentioned, he did 2-inch 250 wall on the lowers and 1.5-inch 120 on the uppers. They are just DOM links. Whenever I do these DOM links, I like to do 2 rosette welds per side. So I just do a 1/2-inch hole, rosette plug weld it on both sides. Same thing with the uppers. That way it's just a little extra safety in the weld. That way if this cracks or anything, you got a thick, big plug weld in each of these. So we finished out the engine skid down here. I think these skid plate braces turned out pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy with them. Kind of got a little style win in there instead of just doing a simple tube. I think a nice plate structure is always a win instead of just doing a simple tube. So I'm happy with how those came out. And then on this side, we got the drive shaft back from the drive shaft shop and put it in here, check clearance again and everything, and we've got just the right amount of room on that engine skid brace. Right now we're sitting at full compression, so when this thing articulates, the drive shaft will kind of come down and kind of swoop down at that angle of that engine skid brace. So carrier bearing, I'm still gonna build the mount for that. Again, I wanted to get this thing mocked up one final time before I made the actual mount for this, just to double check everything's all good. Flexed it out again. We have good clearance on the link, good clearance up here, so all of that's good. So I've got all of the AR400 skid plates on there. All of these are just mock-up hardware that's holding this in. These are way too long, that's why it's sitting down right now. All of these are gonna get countersunk Allens. I drilled one of them out, but I needed to order a new bit, so I'll get all of those holes countersunk. That way the hardware will sit flush. So I did finally get around to ordering all of the plumbing, fittings, and lines and everything for this thing. So hopefully within the next week, all of that stuff will show up, and at that time we should be ready to start wiring and plumbing and all that stuff. I still have a few things to finish up before we're at that point, but just wanted to get all that stuff on order. That way, by the time we do get to that point, we'll be ready for it. I've got to do the doors, still got to do the brake pedal. I've got to do the rest of the center console stuff, the glove box compartment on the side, on the passenger side of the center console. But I say this every week, it's definitely getting closer and closer. The list is getting smaller and smaller. So I've got a trip coming up in a week and a half now. So my plan is hopefully this thing will be at the wiring and plumbing stage by the time I go on vacation. So if I can get it to that point by that time, then I'll send it over to the guy that's gonna help me out with wiring and plumbing on this thing. And while I'm on vacation, he can be plugging away at this thing. That way, by the time I get back, we can make sure everything's good, fix any like fine tuning issues that we have, and then hopefully be ready for the 15th of June is what I'm shooting for, the deadline on this thing to be done. Get it back to the customer. So thanks for watching another update on this thing. Tomorrow's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I probably don't have any moms other than my wife and my mom, so happy Mother's Day, Mom. But hope everybody enjoys their time with their family tomorrow, and don't forget to keep it classy, and I'll see you guys next week.